So, if you want to just introduce yourself, you can tell a little bit about you if you want.
Stephen Apsher. I am 23 years old. I graduated in 2013 from West Jessamine High School, and I have 4 years of military service in the National Guard.
Okay. So the first question I want to ask you is, what label, if any, has the world put upon you, or do you feel like it's been made out to be you?
Terrorist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to go ahead and explain a little bit about that?
Well, I converted from Catholicism to Islam when I discovered it back in basic training, and whenever I finally got back home and told my family, it was kind of mixed emotions because they didn't really know. They didn't know about the religion enough to understand. All they know is what the media puts out. Oh, terrorists of the Islamic faith done this, so on and so forth. So,
okay. So initially your family just had like
Yeah.
a negative reaction.
Very
essentially.
negative.
I mean, I get that. I totally understand that. My family was the same way when I came out as gay. They had a really negative reaction to it. So was it just your family that had a negative reaction, or do you think that was it hard for you to integrate with other people as well? Like, do you think your friends and maybe people in the unit had a negative reaction too?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't really have that many friends anymore because of it. I just have like a very small group of people that I know are open-minded enough that I can hang out with without having to worry about them saying stuff behind my back, essentially. And I've had instances in the unit where I've been washing to pray and a situation happened and nothing happened about it.
Are you allowed to talk about what happened?
I mean, yeah, I guess. It's not open. I've never been told not to say anything about it. So, then there's a few instances where I was on a bus and something else was said to me, but it was addressed and the individual did have that go down on the permanent record.
So do you care to like go in a little bit of detail of what, if you're comfortable with it, what happened? Just so
I was sitting in a bus and we were getting ready to go to a ceremony of transfer of command from our battalion commander to a new battalion commander. And the soldier sat down next to me, asked me, hey, Apsher, do you have a suicide vest on? And I asked him, like, what'd you just say? And he repeated it, and then I kind of lost my shit. And afterwards I went up through my chain of command and it was addressed, and myself and my platoon sergeant at the time and the soldier in question were brought up to our commander, and we had a conversation about it. And then upon next drill I was told that the incident was recorded and it would be going down in the soldier's permanent record as to that's what happened.
Wow, I had no idea that
Yeah.
that happened to you. I mean, I heard that you had been having some issues, a couple here and there, but I never really actually knew what happened. That's awful, and I'm sorry that happened to you. That was
So, but yeah, now like I don't feel comfortable. You've seen I don't bring my praying rug anymore to drill because I don't feel comfortable with that group of people.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that what you're saying is that like I didn't feel comfortable talking about my sexuality.
Yeah.
I think now it's not as bad.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first got to the unit, I aside from me coming out, like I was brought up to be straight. I was brought up in that being gay was wrong and all that stuff. So when I got to the unit and I finally moved out of home, I started experimenting with my sexuality and understanding how I felt about things and understanding who I actually was. And so I knew at the time when I joined, the Don't Ask, Don't Tell law had just been repealed. So, things were not at all calm about sexuality, and gays, lesbians serving, and even trans serving in the military was not, and even now it's still not okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when I first got to the unit, I would hear people call each other faggots, queer. I'd constantly get asked if I was gay. And to me, that like just destroyed me because whenever somebody asked, they were asking because they were trying to hurt me or harm me. They were trying to find out so they could justify
the means of
the actions they were about to put upon me.
Mhm.
So if I were to get, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to get the shit beat out of me. And when they asked if I was gay, and I'd said no, but, you know, in their mind, I was lying, which I was. But they used the idea that I was gay to justify the fact that they were beating the shit out of me. So do you have like, I'm trying to remember this. You said another instance had happened. Well, actually, let's go a little further. So before you joined the military, you had converted when you joined the military?
Yeah, while I was still in basic training, I discovered Islam.
So before you discovered Islam, do you think that you had a different view about it, or what was your view about it?
I've always been open-minded. I have a lot of friends that are, that come from the Muslim faith that I've had grown up with, essentially. Mm-hmm. So I've always been exposed to Islam. But, I left it as it was because at the time I was Catholic. I was going to a private Catholic school. So that's who I was. But, I could tell that, there's bad in every religious group. And, I was hanging out with the true, genuinely good Muslims at the time. So I've always had a respect for them. And, I've always respected other people. I get along with almost everybody, as you know. So I've never really had that problem. And I've never, in a way, gone after or attacked the Muslim faith or said anything against it. Or in anything, I've tried to, get to understand it. And obviously I did. And then eventually helped with my decision.
I mean, I know personally, before I met you and stuff, before I got to know you and stuff, I had somewhat of a negative outlook on it. And it was because of the media, because of the way I was brought up. I was told that it was terrible. I was told that Muslims are terrorists and things like that. But, I've got to know you over the years, and I've got to know other people of the faith too, and I've opened my mind, and I changed my mind. It changed. And I'm glad that it did. I decided to correct the wrong thinking that I had. And because of that, I got to know you, and you're a really great guy. You're a dad, a husband, you have a dog, you're a regular human being just like I am. And your religion does not separate us. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that people can understand that eventually, and that you won't have to go through that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it's like until we're better informed and, we get the real facts out there, it's just the stereotypes are going to continue to happen. So,
are you open with your family about it now, or is it still...
I'm pretty... Well, I don't see too much of my other family anymore, so...
Is that because of you converting, or just...
Just in general. Well, probably because of me converting and just among other things.
Does your wife also practice it as well?
No, she's Catholic.
Okay. So you guys are able to live peacefully?
We're fine.
Okay.
Perfectly fine.
And I the reason I brought that up is because I want people to see that, even someone who is as close to you as your wife has a different view. Mm-hmm. You can still coexist. You can still have a peaceful existence. You don't have to hate each other, even though everyone's telling you that you need to hate someone. Yeah. You don't have to.
No. Because, I've even, it's funny because I've even received pressure, within the actual community. They're like, oh, your wife's not Muslim, you should make her Muslim. And I'm just like, you gotta respect the fact that I don't think they get it, but they just don't understand that I just respect the fact that she's decided to be, Catholic, or she could be whatever, and I would have to respect that. And if it's, God's will that she decides to be Muslim one day, well then, let him be praised for it, dude. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I would never pressure anyone to join the Islamic faith.
Okay. So, do you, sometimes, I guess, can you care to elaborate on some of the things that, I guess, are said about you that you're kind of wanting to just prove wrong? Because I know that, terrorist is one, and other things, as well as the religion itself, really big I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about the religion itself.
Yeah, the religion itself, obviously it's really strict. It's very not from the norm that this country was built upon, because essentially this is a Christian nation, if you will, with just a huge melting pot of all different cultures. But the predominant one has always been a Protestant Christian, or so on and so forth, Christianity in general. So I think that is the big picture, that it's just... For years and years and years, Christianity's been pushed upon, and they usually say no to the outsiders. But I think we just need to re-educate people to be more open towards that, towards other religions, and especially Islam. The biggest misconception is that we mistreat women. If anything, they're one of the better treated. They choose to wear a hijab, for instance, because it's just in reverence of Mary. Because, like, let's say, culturally speaking, that it's imposed, but that's the culture. The religion says you can wear it if you choose to. But if you've
People
grown
just
up,
don't understand that,
Yeah,
and so
like,
they
let's-
mistake the, for instance, they mistake the ones who do misuse it
yeah,
as that
exactly.
being the entirety of the religion.
Because then you'll have some kid with a huge ideology that hates the government, so on and so forth, and they just decide to put a hijab on one day, and they don't. That meaning is changed. She's not
And
wearing it
immediately
in
you're-
reverence of Mary. She's doing it because she thinks of what the cause says for her to wear a hijab, but not because she doesn't really get the meaning as to why she's wearing it.
So do you think a big misconception is not only people outside of their religion, but those who practice it as well, some of them just don't understand the exact meaning, so both parties contribute to the misconception of the religion?
Essentially, yeah, because like you could have anyone can go and say that they're a Muslim, and throw a hijab on, and then that'd be it, right? And the meaning would be taken away. The media would put it out as something else. Simple as that.
So, I mean, I know that you already talked about how common you've had instances of where you feel uncomfortable, where you don't feel safe outside of the religion. So do you ever feel that inside of the religion as well?
No, not really, not at all. No. Inside, I really feel comfortable. Besides, they ask questions because obviously I'm not from the Middle East, so they'll be like, "Oh, you convert," or whatever. And I'll tell them my story, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, praise be to God that you found your true religion and you found yourself again," is what they always say.
Okay.
And it's very welcoming. It's a very peaceful religion. And yeah, but thank you. But then, yeah. Thank you. Come on.
You're adorable.
Jump. Yep. Go on back there. Go watch show. Nope.
So, were those the only two instances you've had in the military
That's
involving?
just there's those two within there, and probably the countless other times some people have said behind my back. I don't.
Do you care to elaborate the other instance? You don't have to mention names or anything, but do you care to
Another
talk
instance.
about?
Okay, well, whenever my mom found out, when I told her, she kicked me out of her car, and I had to walk back about 5 miles to my house. Yeah, because she's just that embedded that she was told that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong.
So do you not speak to her anymore?
Oh no, we're perfectly fine now, but we still bump heads on the subject. But it's more turned into like trying to argue the ideologies of both sides. And it gets good and it can get heated sometimes, but other than that, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But most people have met me, and I'll tell them, who I am, and then they find out later that I'm Muslim. That usually doesn't bother them, because, for instance, for someone to call me a terrorist, it pisses me off so bad, because I serve, and partly, like, especially now that I'm Muslim, I want to right the wrong that people are using the religion as a weapon.
You want to show them that it's you're not a terrorist, that not everyone who identifies is like that.
No, because there are plenty of more Muslims that serve our country, and they probably get a bad rep as well. So.
Yeah, I imagine that, and hold on. Come here. I just want to knock it over.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Go ahead and get him.
I can edit something. I just don't want him to get trapped into there. He's so cute.
Give him chocolate. Oh, he's great.
No, he's a cute kid.
Thank you.
You were saying the other instance of what happened in the unit. I don't think did we elaborate on that yet?
The very first one went up. Okay, so I was washing. You wash before prayer, and it's called wudu. And I had the showers on, and a soldier walked in, and he asked me what I was doing. And I guess while saying a prayer in Arabic, and the water going on, it echoed, and he probably heard something completely different. And he stepped back and placed his hand on his sidearm. And, well, he never pulled it, but he was just like, dude, what's going on? What's going on? And then I turned the showers off like, hey, man, I'm just in here praying. He's like, oh, okay. But come to find out later, that soldier had an instance back in basic training where another guy that was going through had, I guess he snapped and started hurting people in the shower. And that's where it took place, and I guess it may have been, I don't know how you even say that, like he relived that moment back in basic training and, me praying in the shower. So I kind of messed up because his first thought was terrorist, but I can almost understand where he's coming from.
So was the instance that he occurred, was it someone who was of the faith that snapped, or was it just a random person who was in the showers?
It was just a random guy that was going through basic training that couldn't handle it and just snapped and started attacking other soldiers in base. Well, while they were in the bathroom area. Yeah.
So, how did you feel the first time you were ever called a terrorist?
Oh, dude, it made me sick. It hurt. It really hurt. Because, like, I figured, like, we're all supposed to be brothers, sisters, watch each other's back, and then having that brotherhood, having that taken away.
Taken away.
Yeah, like, now I can't trust you if we ever deploy. I can't trust you while we're doing training. I can't trust you with a weapon. That's how it made me.
They're going to turn on you.
Yes, exactly. Because what's going to stop them from turning around and saying, "Oh, he looked like he was doing something suspicious. He's a Muslim."
Do you still feel that way in the unit?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you wouldn't trust anyone?
There's not that many people I trust.
I felt the same way too, because the same people that were saying faggot, and like I remember that whenever they talked about gay marriage or marriage equality, a lot of them were pissed off about it. Inside, I was excited. I was like, holy crap, for the first time I'm being validated. Mm-hmm. I'm officially, on paper, by law, being validated for the first time. But I couldn't be happy about it because it wasn't out yet. And I literally, in my mind, was like, if I say that I'm happy about this, they're going to find out that I'm gay. If they find out that I'm gay, they're going to kill me. I thought that they were going to do that to me. Like, I had that fear. I don't think that would have ever happened, but it's just the stigma of that, which is another thing that we need to break too, because not everyone in the military, the unit that I've met, is disapproving of my sexuality. It's like not disapproving of religion. It's just that they don't speak up about it enough, and so we don't feel comfortable or safe in that environment. And I think that that's partly what made me regret my military career when I started, is that it started off great, but when I came out, I had two very conflicting lives that I had to live. When I went to drill, I was straight. I put on a uniform. I was a completely different person. I wasn't allowed to be myself. I didn't feel like I was comfortable. I wasn't safe to be myself. And then whenever I took that uniform off, I got to be me again. And that was, for the longest time, was the hardest thing for me to do. And I dreaded going to drill every single time.
That's kind of where I'm at right now, to be honest. Like, you just exactly described how I feel when I go to drill. Because I'd love to be able to do my thing and pray, but I really don't feel comfortable.
And like when I first got there, I was highly motivated. I wanted to do so much with the military, and I was so excited to do stuff. And I was very motivated. I showed up on time. I was passing PT. I was trying as hard as I could. But I remember when I did come out, it started to get a little bad because we had people there that weren't approving of it. They left finally, but by then the damage had already been done, and I couldn't undo it. And so for me, getting out was the only way to undo it. And my mentality since I left has skyrocketed. I've gotten so much better about, my outlook on life. But I remember being in the unit when I was in and I was out. I had one of my squad leaders. I didn't tell them I was gay, but I feel like they knew because every time I was around them, they always looked over their shoulder at me. They were always staring at me, always making me feel uncomfortable. I would always get the shittiest detail. I remember we had one conversation where they told me that I was the laziest person they had ever met, and that I didn't do shit in the unit, and I didn't deserve to wear the uniform. And I thought to myself, what have I ever done to you to deserve that? Because I showed up on time, I passed PT, I did all the work. I did more work than most people in my squad or anybody did. I never got credit for that because of my sexuality and the way he felt about it. I remember one instance in Florida, I worked my ass off that drill trying to, to prove to him that I wasn't this piece of shit that he thought I was. And so at the end of the drill, when I was exhausted, we were getting ready to leave, I was cleaning up. I was one of the only soldiers cleaning up. There was a couple people in my bay that was cleaning up, but I was one of the only ones doing it. So I left after I finished cleaning and went to go get food. And he asked if the bay had been finished cleaning, and he was like, and I was like, no, not yet. There were some people over there. He was like, why are you over here being a lazy piece of shit? Go over there and help him. And as soon as I had left, 3 other people walked in and he said nothing to him. I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? And just that, and then a couple other instances, it broke me. I was like, I can't believe that I'm being treated this way. That they don't care whether I fail or succeed. And so I felt the same way that you felt. I thought if I got to play with him that he was going to let me die first. I'd be the first one to send out, and he didn't care about my well-being at all. And that's not how it's supposed to be.
Nope.
At all.
That's not what I signed up for.
No, it's not. So do you feel that it's starting to get a little bit better, or do you still feel it's just as bad, or do you think
it's getting a little bit better, only because I've just, with the only way that I know how to earn people's respect, even that is just, respecting others, doing my job, not getting mad about anything, try not to be too vocal, but I'm not, if someone straight up comes up to me and says terrorist, I'm gonna handle it. So I hold my ground and show respect.
So even outside of the military too, have you had instances just in your personal life,
not really.
You don't feel like people judge you at all for that?
No, because outside of the military, it's pretty common, I guess. And especially here in Lexington, there's quite a good number of Muslim, so it's become pretty orientated with people, and I don't feel as threatened.
I mean, that's awesome to hear about that. I did not know that, so I thought that it might have been the same outside of here, because I know for my sexuality, sometimes it is the same treatment. I know that there are certain places in Richmond that I don't really go to. There are certain times, like when me and Jake go on dates, we typically don't really hold hands. We kind of just don't show any affection. I know that whenever we go out on a date, people don't assume that we're together. They assume that we're just two friends hanging out. But one thing that really bugs me is whenever we go out with our roommate, Emily, and she's our friend, she's an amazing person. But whenever we go out with her, everyone either assumes that one of us is sleeping with her or dating with her. Or dating her. They don't think that we're together. And that gets me every time. It makes me so mad. Because it's like, why do I, just because she's with us, why is it so weird for you to think that two people of the same gender can be together? Why is that so weird? Why is that so wrong to you? Stuff like that. Do you feel that way with your religion and your wife's religion, that people feel the same way? Maybe in your family or...
Yeah, I mean, they honestly question it, but besides the fact I guess they take the initiative to find out more. Like, some people are curious, some people are just like, oh, okay, and,
But they're not threatening them. They're not asking them to harm you.
Never. Never are they threatening about it. But never do I get actually threatened outside of it or feel bothered by it outside of wearing the uniform. But, I mean, there's in some places, I probably wouldn't tell people, depending on where I'm at, but normally where I go and hang out at, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. One question I want to ask you, it's kind of a little off-the-wall question. In terms of your son, do you kind of fear him growing up in a society thinking that your religion is terroristic? Do you ever have that fear of what might what he might think, or even if he decides to convert, what he'll go through?
I mean, yeah, I've put some thought into it because honestly, if he were to decide to be Muslim, he's gonna go through some stuff. You know, people, I feel like they don't understand the religion yet. And he'll go through some stuff, but yeah.
I think he agrees with you.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll have to explain it to him, and I'll tell him like it is. Be like, people that are ignorant are going to label you as a terrorist. It's going to happen. The religion teaches you just to turn another cheek, essentially. Don't strike back, don't talk back, educate. Knowledge is the key. So I feel like if we can, put a positive spin to something that is already positive but needs to be cleared up, then yeah.
That's what I'm hoping to do with this project too, is to try to maybe push the conversation in that direction. I don't think this will have a global impact, of course. I'm not expecting that, but I'm hoping that at least if someone comes to the show or gets on Facebook and sees this video and sees you, and maybe the people who thought that about you when they watch this interview or read about your testimony, will maybe hopefully treat you differently and will not come up to you and think the first thought in their head, terrorist. Maybe they'll have a different outlook and maybe they'll treat you better. And maybe it won't be so difficult for you and being in the unit or just anywhere you go. Maybe it'll be easier for people who identify in your faith, as well as other people who also are affected by any label that they have. So, next question. What do you think is the biggest reason for most conflict? And to branch off of that, what do you believe we can do to help ease the conflict?
Well, really it's just people just don't want to ask questions. They don't want to be educated. They're too stuck in their ways. If someone were to come up and ask a question about Islam, I'd be more than happy to educate them. And I'm sure I can't say that for everybody that practices the faith, but most people, if you have a question and you're truly curious with good intent, you'll learn. I mean, we have so much information out there as it is that people can't educate themselves.
So essentially what you're saying is
people have to take the initiative themselves.
And I guess would you also say that another message you're trying to send in your life is, it's a really simple one, it's a really old school one, don't judge a book by its cover.
Essentially.
Open it up and read about it.
Yeah. Like, if you just find out who I am, you'll realize that I'm not a terrorist.
No, you're not. I mean,
no.
If you watch this video, you can see that you're clearly not a terrorist.
Don't touch that. That's hot, buddy.
And one thing that kind of gets me too is that I don't understand why the word terrorism is immediately rooted with the Islamic religion. There are other instances where it's someone who doesn't identify as anything. It's just a human being who, for some unforeseen reason, has decided to, act out of extreme violence. Mm-hmm. And that's what terrorism is. It's not identified by a religion. It's not identified by a specific group of people. Anyone can commit a terrorist act. The act of terrorism is to instill fear through violence. And that's exactly what that's doing. But it's not caused by a single religion or a single group of people. So branching off of that too, the last question I want to ask you is, what do you think it means to be human?
What it means to be human? Put a lot of thought into this one. I always still get stuck, but the best that I come up with is just trying to discover, how to not necessarily how to coexist, it's how to learn to be yourself, and whatever that may be, if you're gay, Muslim, whatever, or just even branch off, just try to find out how to be a good person, and then once you've become a good person for yourself, find out how you can help others in the community. But that's what I really think what it means to be human.
Okay. Another last question I want to ask you too is, what do you hope people watching this interview or reading your testimony or even seeing any part of this project, what do you hope happens? Or what, if you could even spread a message to people, what would that message be?
Just to... they just really have to take the step and open their eyes to what they're scared of. Like, I mean, if you're scared of Muslim people, sit down, find out about Islam. There's tons of videos out there. There's so much stuff that you can find out. And you'll see that it's a truly peaceful religion, and that, granted, one of the largest religions in the world, and only I think it's less than 10% are radicalized. So, granted, that's a pretty substantial number, but only
there are
10%.
radicalized groups everywhere. It's not
Yeah,
just Islam.
right.
There are radical
Like
Christians, radical gays, radical anybody. A
Yeah.
human being can be radical no matter what they
The one
identify
guy
as.
that shot up the black church, the younger teenage
He
guy.
didn't identify in any religion whatsoever.
Exactly. But he's not a terrorist. He's a mental patient.
And that, another thing too is that people that commit these awful crimes, yes, they need to be held responsible, but also find out why they did that. What pushed them to do that, so you can prevent that from happening. Like the school shooting that just happened. I'm seeing all over my Facebook feed about how, you know, this is because of guns or it's not because of guns, and that's the wrong way to go about it. The question you need to be asking is, what was wrong with him? And why did he do that? And then ask yourself, what did we as a society fail in terms of not doing something? Like what did we not do to prevent this? And I think that will help ease terroristic acts like that. And of course, no, it's not going to happen overnight, and you're never going to ever have a complete 100% peaceful existence. I know that's not
It's not
that's
real.
ideal, but I
in a
know that's
perfect
not
world.
it's not real. It's not a perfect world, but I do believe that you can minimize that. I do believe that you can make an impact by having conversations like we're having right now, by not being afraid to talk to someone, by not even if, you know, in terms of the broader spectrum with terroristic acts and mental health and just violence in general and things that happen, you know, stop focusing on what the media solely gives you. The media 9 times out of 10 is wrong. Not necessarily wrong, but it's one-sided, and people don't understand that the media is very one-sided. You're only getting one perspective. I think it's our responsibility to get the whole story in terms of things like that. And even when it's just simple things like we're doing now with your religion itself, you know, if something ever happens that is deemed terrorism, find out exactly what happened, find out who that person was, what was happening, and then also realize that that person was just misguided. They committed a terrible act of violence, like the Orlando shooting.
Yeah, exactly.
I kept hearing that was due to terrorism. That guy he might have identified as Islam, but I don't think he truly represented that. He was misleaded. And that was his own selfish agenda. That was him, his responsibility, not the responsibility of anyone who identifies as Islam. That was his sole responsibility. And from what you told me, your religion's very peaceful, so I don't understand how people can think that the religion that you're practicing is a terroristic one. Because if you were a terrorist...
For example, suicide, that's, last time I checked, you can answer this, suicide is very, very frowned upon in Christianity, right?
It's frowned upon everywhere. You know.
Well, let's just look at it from the religious aspect. It's it's frowned upon, right? You commit suicide in Christianity, you go to hell essentially. We're an Abrahamic religion too. The same ideology is with us. You end your life, hellfire. It's the same thing. So that's where the brainwashing comes in and the giant misconception of what a Muslim and a terrorist is. A terrorist is someone that has been told, hey, this is right, and a Muslim is basically the exact opposite. They're an anti-Muslim.
So do you feel that one thing that could happen is that if these two conflicting religions and these two conflicting ideologies,
Well, it's two
the people who
conflicting
are practicing them,
ideologies.
if they would just put the differences aside and realize that they're both human beings who just believe something different
Well,
and then agree to disagree, that might ease conflict.
Well, that would not really stop the conflict, because you still have a radical ideology that wants to kill you, that wants to destroy, to take out and have one sole, ideology. I think that the side that has been radicalized, there's still hope for them. I don't want anyone to get killed over being misled. They need to be re-educated.
But also the fact that the people
the bad that they learned is, it's bad. Show them the good.
But the people that are also coming from these radicalized areas, they're facing problems they're facing problems that we don't know about. Like, they're being threatened every day. They're being taken over by people who have a harming ideology.
Exactly.
And these people are being forced to become like this or they're going to
Yeah,
die.
that's, for instance, like I watched a documentary about Saudi Arabian terrorists. Essentially, like they are speaking out against their government, and then they're labeled a terrorist. But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, other topic.
Because,
Yeah.
it's like the government killed their brother, so now I'm going to join a group and get my revenge, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's what a jihad kind of is.
Well, like I was saying, I hope for this project that when someone, maybe if they read this or look at this interview or read what you write, and then they meet you for some reason, just by chance meet you, or they meet someone who identifies as your religion, maybe they'll give you the chance that I'm giving you to just be open about yourself, be open about who you are, and show that you're not a terrorist, that not everyone like you is a terrorist, and maybe, hopefully that will happen. But I really appreciate you being open about what's happened. And I even, before I came in here, I didn't expect it to get deep, but I'm glad it did. That's what my goal is I want people to, see the parts that they don't know about and to get a deeper understanding of what you go through and what it's like for you to be called a terrorist and for them to feel
and,
that.
Yeah, I mean, it's comforting knowing that I'm not the only one that's had to go through it as well. Even if it's from a different point of view, it's like
And
the
that's another
same
idea of the project too, is that,
Yeah.
I've never been called a terrorist, so I can't
But
personally
you've
tell you what
always
it
been
feels
called,
like. But
like,
I've been
a
called a
fag
faggot
or
or queer, so I
something
know,
like that. So
I
it's-
know, I
yeah.
know, I know what it feels like to be called, to be labeled something that's so negative,
Right.
and to not be given a chance. I know what that feels like. So I think that instance that we identify, I think the biggest success of this itself was that we both identified as human beings, and we came about this as we're two human beings who just want to understand each other.
Yeah.
And I think through that, I was open with you and you're open with me, and when we were able to relate to each other on a level that I've never been able to relate to you. I never got to really know you in the unit, but I'm glad that we got to do this.
Yeah.
Because it's opened my eyes about, people of the faith and people who are like that. I never realized that. And I did not realize you were being called a terrorist either. That's terrible to think that. I mean, you're serving our country just like everybody else.
Yeah.
You're fighting for the same thing everybody else is. You want this country to be free. You want to protect your family. You want to protect the people you
I
love.
want to have a right
And you're
to
being
religious
you want
freedom.
to have a right to religious freedom. You're being labeled a terrorist for that. Is there anything else? Anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, man.
Anything you want to touch on, or?
I think we're pretty good. Pretty good.